you have to trust your gut. Sometimes you have enough experience to know the answer. Welcome back, friends. This is my reading spot where I can finally talk about something that I have in mind since a long time. When is the time to not doing user research? Yes, sometimes you don't need user research at all. But before we started, as you can hear, I'm a French designer from Montreal, and I'm living here since 6 years, but I'm doing product design since over 12 years. And if you like my work, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Let's deep dive. All right, guys. So let's talk about user research. As you know, user research is fundamental to understand the user need and user behavior in order to avoid those kind of mistakes when you release something in production and it's not align with the user need. But there are some scenarios where it's not necessarily needed to do user research, user interview, and user testing. And sometimes it can actually lead us to the wrong path. How is possible? Sometimes for small and simple projects. If you're working on a small part of a new feature or existing feature, maybe in this case it's not needed to do user testing for a small simple task inside a feature that it's already well known and pretty appreciated. You're risking to investing a huge amount of time for a small impact. Your intuition or using just common design pattern can be enough to solve the problem without doing a user test or user interview. And in this case, user research is not justified at all. I'm just taking a break. It's so good to be here with you and talking about all these different topics, but sometimes I would like to see you more commenting and debating with me about all these topics. So hit the subscribe button and drop a comment below. Another scenario is also the tight deadline. And sometimes if you're working in a small company, it's not realistic to taking, let's say, 2 weeks or 4 weeks just for user interview or user test. In a fast-pacing development environment, sometimes you don't have enough days or weeks allowing for user research. And that's something to negotiate with your product owner. If it's value that is necessary, talk first with your product owner and try to sell the value of user research before jumping into the boat. In this case, just explore some quick alternatives. Maybe try something small. Having a small talk with your colleagues can help a lot already. And for that, I invite you to check my last video about the user research on a tight budget. Another scenario is when your product is well mature or one who is in the market since a long time. Well, in this case, you have a chance to having a lot of data in the Google Analytics, for example, that you can explore and trying to uncover new situations without the need of user testing. All this insight might be there already, so just take it and use it without starting a whole process of a user research. And you're not gonna learn something more than if you just using the data available for you. Finally, the budget constraint. As you know, sadly, sometimes UX department don't have enough budget for that. And in this case, you have to be creative to find other way to get your insight without spending too much money, but still having a big impact. That's a very specific situation, like for example in a startup world can be very tricky, or in agency if you're working with a client who don't value and don't want to pay for user research. Well, in this case you have to do with this constraint and doing a small user research like a guerrilla testing. Finally, I want to remind you also that you have to trust your gut. Sometimes you have enough experience to know the answer without launching a new user testing. And there are so many design patterns already available and well understood by the majority of the user. Like for example, if you want to design a map versus a list, you can use Google Map as a perfect example of well designing experience, or Airbnb map versus list. You don't need to reinvent the wheel in this case. Just use a common design pattern and trust your guts. All I'm saying, if you are a senior, if you're a pro, you are an expert, people will trust you, and you should use your expertise as a North Star. You already designed a lot of different experience in the past. So use what you learn from this different situation. Of course, each situation is different and user too, but you are the expert. That's my point. It's about to be pragmatic and knowing when is the right time to using all this valuable methodology, but it's definitely not an excuse to not talking to the user. So today I share with you all my alternatives to not doing research when it's not the right context. But let me know what is other context that is not valuable to doing user research, or do you have other technique? In this case, do you trust your gut? Let me know in the comment below. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment this video. I will be happy to see you in the next video. Click here.